Hello everyone, I hope you are doing well today. We're picking up right where we left off in our last video. And I mean it this time. I'm not joking like I normally do. But wait a minute, I want to talk about never mind, I'm kidding. So we just finished making camp. We are chasing after these pilgrims of travelers, pilgrims that found Alaric's cousin's body at the foot of the base and brought it back to Bracken Abbey. They left Bracken Abbey to return back to the main kingdom where they are home on the night before, and now maybe 2 nights before. Brother Alaric is trying his hardest. He's got a horse that he's rented, and he's trying to catch up with them to get more information. Yesterday, I had a little bit of bad luck. Got a little slowed down, suffered a time loss and was unable to catch up with them before Brother Alaric had to make camp. But now I've made the camp rather uneventful. I think every watch you kind of roll for, let me get to our travel rules again, our wilderness exploration. So, I want to make sure I got this. Watch is divided 3-hour shifts. Third watch resting. Days as a shorthand for travel time. I want to make sure each day the weather. Okay, so I'm going to roll on the new weather table. I want to see if I have to roll in the wilderness with each watch, right? A single wilderness action. That wilderness action was make camp. Okay. So I did not roll a wilderness events table for the camp of the night. I think that's just fine. Being by myself at a camp, I don't think there's any particular need to roll on it. It doesn't seem like at night you would roll on the wilderness table that much, right? You're not really exploring. Party sets up mixed camp, consume a ration, lookout rotation, party members are able to rest and move off fatigue. I guess you could definitely roll on the wilderness event table at a watch action, but I did not do that for the night, and I am just fine with that. Okay, so Alaric wakes up the next day, but it is a new day, so I'm going to roll on the weather table again for our what's going to be our third watch. D6. It is spring. Wow, the weather is extreme today. Wow, so overnight, as Alaric sleeps and make camp in the wee hours of the morning, a squall rolls in and the rain just starts pouring down. I have to add a fatigue. I got to add +1 watch. And I got to increase our difficulty by 1. Wow, this is becoming quite an adventure. All right, so I have to add a fatigue. The way fatigue works, pretty important in Cairn. It takes an inventory slot. Okay, I'm now carrying some fatigue. Really, Alaric is not carrying these 2 items. They would be back home at his home. He wouldn't have need to carry a blank book and quill and ink in this particular journey, but I wouldn't want to erase them from my inventory. So, but either way, I am carrying a fatigue, an owl, the whisper vial, rations, and a torch. So I add a fatigue. I add +1 watch to my travel. That's okay. I'm not technically on a destination, so I guess the good news is this foul weather will affect the people I'm pursuing as well as me. So from a practical perspective, it's not really going to add. The difficulty is the same for me and the people I'm chasing after. I'm not really going towards a destination other than the people I'm chasing. So really the fatigue is going to be the big loss. So the road's starting to flood. It's just pouring sheets of rain. Like so much so, he's definitely having to slow down. He can only walk his horse at this point in time. Alaric is not able to ride his horse quickly. They're at a normal pace. There are parts where the road is kind of getting swamped in the rain and washing out at points, so it goes up, knee deep on his horse as he's traveling down the road. But it's still a firm road. Extreme weather happens. This is the moors, and the marsh is a flat, level area, so it's not doesn't technically have to watch out for flooding per se on the road, other than part of the road being washed away. The gullies on the side of the road, I imagine, are full. It's just awful out here, and it slows him down considerably, and it's just hard to handle everything. He's just dripping wet in his robes and clothes. The horse is dripping wet. Hard to see, hard to travel, hence the fatigue. And I'll roll on the events table. No matter what, this is not, I meant this to be a small little excursion. It's anything but a small little excursion. 5 on the events table here. Exhaustion. The party encounters a barrier, forcing efforts, care, or delays. This might mean spending extra time or adding fatigue to the PC's inventory to represent their difficulties. Well, that's very fitting under this extreme weather. That makes perfect sense to me. I'm going to add another fatigue to my inventory. Because this weather is so horrible, there are times when Alaric has to dismount. He has to lead his horse through the water, find slightly better passages. He can't just kind of travel down the road safely. He's having to kind of detour, find higher ground, wait for the sheets of rain to die down enough for him to make it ford a particularly bad part of the road. And it's just, the horse is fighting him. The horse isn't really happy with his traveling either. So he has to fight the horse. It just makes this even compoundedly miserable experience, which is why he has to add a second fatigue to his inventory. I'm pretty sure there's no other negative effect of fatigue other than that inventory slot, but I better look at the rules real quick, because I do admit I was not expecting to encounter fatigue. Let me quickly look at the core rules. Make sure there's anything else I need to be concerned about when it comes to fatigue. Deprivation fatigue. I'm not deprived. PC may be forced to add fatigue due to events. Each fatigue occupies 1 slot and lasts till the PC is able to recuperate. If I have fatigue and I don't have the inventory, I'm forced to drop items. But it does not look like there is any additional negative roll to fatigue. I'm not deprived. I've got food. I did get rest. Yeah, I'm just slowly being worn down with fatigue. Okay, so I would say at this point, my action for this day once again is travel. Isaac's not interested in exploring. He's just trying to catch up, with these pilgrims that are on the road. So Just all I'm doing for my wilderness action is travel. Let's see. When travel begins, party rolls a d6, see if they get lost along the way. Is that this wilderness event, right? No? Rolls a d6. Depending on the path. Oh, that's right, on the path difficulty. That's right. That's back a page here. Path type. No penalty due to roads. No penalty due to terrain. But the extreme weather conditions increases terrain difficulty by a step. There we go. So now it goes to tough terrain, which adds that +1 watch. I don't see where I really roll. Where is that roll a d6 to see if I get lost? Is that the wilderness event table? I'm assuming I'm not really sure what it means here. When players roll a d6 to see if they get lost. Warden, party plots adjust. Narrates the results on the events table. Is the d6 just a die of fate, maybe? I don't know if the wilderness event is really where, maybe that's the, what he's talking about. I'm not sure where it says roll a d6 to determine if you're lost. I don't see any sort of table in here about getting lost. I may be blind. Well, I don't want to spend much time on that. So I rolled the wilderness event table and had exhaustion. So, and we're on a road, so I don't think we're getting lost. I'm not really exploring anywhere, and we're on a clear open road. I might need to check on this d6 for getting lost. Anyway, don't want to spend more time on it. Done. So moving forward, I'm going to think at this point these pilgrims are probably even in worse shape. You know, they aren't really likely traveling on this road either. So I'm going to say at this point, I'm going to catch up, you know, with these travelers on this third day watch, because they probably have stopped to pull over and even make camp for the day until this squall passes. I'm the only one crazy enough to still be out riding and walking in this extreme weather. So I'm going to say by the end of this watch, we do finally catch up to the pilgrims. The three pilgrims, Shade, Herald, and Shroud. Wow, what a trio they are. So, I don't know. I've got Brother Alaric out here as my icon. I don't really have the three travelers here. I guess we don't need to worry too much about the three pilgrims. So as Alaric's going and traveling on this road, it's still daytime, but it's just raining sheets to the point where it's almost dark out here. But he does finally come across the pilgrims. They're on the road because it's the highest ground around in the moor. So they don't even move off the road. The road is the highest ground right now. So he comes across and they're camped out kind of at the edge of the road. They're huddled. They've got, their robes pulled up heavily over them, hiding their faces. Eller can see where they've tried to at first make a fire and put a lean-to tent up with a tarp, but it's pouring down so bad they gave up. They're just huddling, waiting for this squall to pass on by when Alaric stumbles across them. Alaric hails them. Hail! And they rise up. Hail! What are you doing out in this weather, traveler? We've got stuck. Does it always rain like this out here? Alaric isn't sure which one of the, whether it's Shade, Herald, or Shroud that's speaking to him. But he says, and he approaches them with his horse. Alaric says, oh, it is awful weather. I agree. I can't remember the last time we've had a storm like this, especially going on this long. It should blow over before too much longer. The pilgrims squat back down, and they look miserable. Alaric says, are you okay? We're wet and tired and cold. Of course we're not okay. There's not even a place to find shelter in this blasted land. This is like heath, marsh. There's some scrub trees around, off in the distance, but it's raining so bad they can't even make it to them. Alaric squats next to him and joins them in their misery and commiserates with them. Alaric says, are you Shade, Herald, and Shroud? The pilgrims look a little surprised that Alaric knows who they are. We are. How do you know us? My name is Alaric. I come from Bracken Abbey. I've come looking for you. It was my cousin's body you found at the base of the cliffs. Oh. Pilgrims all kind of nod. My condolences for the death of your relative. It was a tragic, tragic event. Alaric says, thank you. I've been riding to hunt you down. I was hoping to speak to you. Oh, they say almost in unison. Once again, Alaric isn't sure which one's talking. Their faces are all covered in these yellow robes, and they're wet, sticking and falling in front of their faces. He can't even tell. They're having to yell to speak to each other over this weather. So he can't even tell at any one time who's speaking at one time. He's like, yes, I'm hoping you can give me more information. I think maybe I will roll a presence. I take that back. I'm going to draw a fate card. I'm kind of curious about the general vibe of these guys. I don't, not a fake, I got a tarot card for spark purposes, oracle purposes. I don't really like this tarot deck. It's meant, my wife got it for me as a companion piece for these. This tarot deck is made by the same fellow, but as you can tell, it's not anywhere close to the same size. This is some cheap Timu knockoff, right? The paper's thin and cheap. Anyway, it's some cheap Timu knockoff, so I'm not super happy with it, but it'll be fine for what our purposes. But it is disappointing. This is a sci-fi tarot. The Six of Swords. Let's see if I can remember what the Six of Swords is. I don't time I use tarot for oracle purposes, really. In my opinion, is for big picture things. Maybe NPC motivations and ideas, but big picture stuff. It's not very good for detail. You aren't going to be able to draw a tarot card. Maybe I can look at it and be inspired by the wheel or the moon or this gal on this spaceship. But other than that, it's just not very good for general. Anyway, I said my point. There is a NPC chart in here, which is kind of fun. Let's use it. Gives an opportunity here. It's kind of in a weird location. It's kind of back here under the quest section. I kind of think this thing should be up a little further. Anyway, what do I care? What do I know? So this is Six of Swords. Swords, rational, logical, direct, defenders of. This you can draw this to kind of get a concept of a vibe for the NPCs. What their deal is. Anyway, it's just meant for vibes. Enforcers of law, investigators, protectors, NPCs who value truth, strategy, justice may challenge you intellectually or by authority. So these pilgrims of they're logical, they're rational, and they're pretty direct. So they're not going to beat around the bush, when it comes to Alaric and talking with him. They don't appear to be very deceptive. I think you probably saw in here, you can draw some of these cards in inverse, which has more negative aspects. I believe I drew it right side up. I don't think I really paid a lot of attention when I drew the card, so I'm going to assume I drew it upright. But there is a reversed interpretation where they could be ruthless, cruel, dishonest, or tyrannical. That doesn't seem very fitting for these pilgrims unless there was some alternative thing going on here that that I'm not aware of. So we'll just take it at straight value. So these guys are very truthful. So they tell Alaric what they know. They point out on the big map where they found his body. They say it was off the trail. It wasn't on the main trail up the path. They said they found him just by coincidence because they reached the bottom of the trail and they were going to go off the road to make camp. And as they got off the road a ways to find a good campsite, that's when they stumbled upon his body. They said it looked like he had been there several days, but no predators had gotten to him yet. Well, maybe, is that something I really want to roll on? Yeah, I don't think I want something I want to roll on. I don't want it to get too gruesome. So, they say it didn't look like any predators got to him, but they found him, just as he is, and they figured that he maybe had to come from town. They said they didn't really investigate anything. They didn't know anything other than they just found his body. But when they brought him back to town, apparently, people who came to him did recognize who he was, that he was a member of the 12 families. And once they got in touch with the 12 families, then they were able to find out who he was. But that's all they really have to say, is that he was off the trail and they pointed out on the map. I'll ask him, did you see anyone else on the trail besides you guys? Was there, were there other travelers on that road as going up as you were going down? I'm going to roll a fate dice on that. Yes, they say they did pass. Who did they pass? That's a good question. What kind of oracle is going to work well for me in this case? Let's see. I'm going to roll on the number, how many people they came across on their traveling up as they were traveling down the road. 4. Number, several. So they passed a group of several people traveling up the trail as they were traveling down. I'm going to ask what else can they tell me about these people. Maybe, I wonder if there's anything useful in the spark table that might help me out with that. I got to keep track of this. Let me write this down because this is going to become maybe useful, maybe not. The pilgrims passed several people who were not pilgrims traveling up as they were traveling down. They were not pilgrims. Let's see. I think maybe I will make another presence check. Once again, just for intuition, emotion scale. Do you remember anything about them? Did they look suspicious? You know, they weren't pilgrims. Did they say anything to you? I'm going to roll a presence check just really to see if they can provide more information. A 1, that is a critical success, my friends. Yeah, that's a critical success at a 1. So they do remember details about these people traveling up the tail. Let's see if I can find any good spark tables in here that might help me out with details. If not, I may roll them a little later when I find like what I really like for a spark table out here. Let's see. I know, let's roll. Let's draw another tarot card. Judgment, that's a major arcana. That's not really what I want here. Major arcana does not give me as much. Let's see what justice gives me. I think I would rather have a minor one for this. I'm going to keep that in mind. That is judgment face up, which is just pretty much what you would expect. These are more like, these are really more like interactions. So maybe that's not really what I want. I want more of a more, let's see, what a judgment gives me here. Reckoning or renewal. What's for judgment? Sometimes finding the exact right spark table doesn't always get to what I want here. I think maybe because we're talking about people, maybe I'll roll on the city settlement spark table. Because that sometimes will give you more civilized people sort of thing like that. Let's try that. I'm going to keep judgment out in mind for this. But let's roll. Oh, by the way, I'm going to roll my threat dice for my 2 fatigues, by the way. We will get that done here in just a second. But let's see what I roll here. 6. Navigate. Since I don't know who these people are or what they will be, I'm going to get some code words here and kind of see what comes up with. 7. Branded. 20. Exchange. Okay, so I've got some thoughts for this. So as the pilgrims described this encounter with the travelers going up as they were going down, he said these travelers, a thin trail that goes up to the bluffs, frequently requires extra climbing gear because the road, this path, if it dealt with this rain, it may even be washed out when they go up there next time. But, this path is treacherous, it's narrow, it's thin. When they tried to navigate down, they come across this group going up. This other group would not even move out of the way. They insisted on going first. The pilgrims had to press their bodies up against the wall so these travelers would pass them by. They noticed that these travelers had strange tattoos on them. They were heavily tattooed and all shared the very same tattoos as they exchanged pathways on this road up the travelers. They said they looked kind of like people of authority, which is why they stepped to the side of the road and let these people pass. But that's all they really remember. They did not really exchange any words with them outside a few grunts. They tried to engage them a little bit and say hello, but they weren't interested in communicating. They walked them on by. Alaric asks them to describe these branded tattoos. Let's see if I can roll another oracle table here for tattoos. I'm sorry I'm taking up too much time on these oracles, but that's how it works. You've got to be able to get the right ideas. I'm going to roll on the general spark table, I think. For these tattoos. 9, stir. 11, withering. 5, echoes. Stir, withering, echoes. That doesn't do much for me. So I'm going to ponder these tattoos. I might want them to be part of a larger tale, but they were tattoos, and these, because of the critical success, I'm going to say the Pilgrims of On are able to give him an accurate description of the tattoos they noticed about these group of individuals. As he's having this discussion with Pilgrims, the weather finally starts to let up as they get to the end of this. All of them look pretty relieved. Alaric thanks them for their help, thanks them for bringing back his cousin to him. They say they're glad to do it. Good luck. Good luck in the future. And they part ways to continue their journeys. Because I've had to add a couple of fatigues to myself with this weather, I am going to roll 2 dice on the fate chart. I got to remember to stop myself once in a while because I forget to roll on it. A 4. Another 4. Okay, so once again, the step dice does not go down, but I did roll it twice, all the same. Okay, so there is that. The weather, I'm going to say the weather's going to break, or I'll roll another table. As we come to the end of the shift, and this would be the first shift of the day. Let me look at that extreme weather again, though. I just remind myself that I added an extra watch to my travels, so I might need an extra watch to go home. But I should still have one more watch to turn around. So what I'll do is actually re-roll on the weather table as we turn around. So Alaric's gotten all the information he could really get. He knows where the body was located. Has it identified on the map. And he knows that the Pilgrims came across a group that were on their way up that down that may be involved or may know something or may not. So let's continue on with the next day. The second watch of the first day. Let's see. We should have another change in the weather. Or does it only change during the day? I guess it does. Every day the weather changes, right? Not every watch. Yeah, each day the warden should roll on the weather table. Yeah, I'm going to say that there's a change in the weather somewhere. I can't imagine pouring rain going on for more than 8 hours. That would be crazy. Let's roll for a change in the weather. 3, sure enough, it goes back to fair. So at the end of this watch, the weather does change and goes back to fair and normal weather. Alaric heads back on the second watch. I will roll again on the, we're still taking a travel action. And I will roll again on the wilderness event table. 3. Well, there we go. A shift in weather or terrain. So maybe that worked out. I should have just rolled on the events table first. Shift in weather. I didn't have to bend the rules. Look at that. So we had a shift in weather for our event for the table. The weather becomes fair. It would be crazy to have the weather be bad that long. So his second cycle of the day, but he's still out there a ways. I think he's going to have to make camp again, because it took 2 watches, one watch, a camp watch, first watch the next day, second watch the next day. I think with the weather being as bad, the road being washed out, I think that still is going to count. I think he's going to have to make camp one more night. I'm going to consume another ration. It kind of makes sense to have to do that. So he's going to make camp again another night. But I'm still going to say the conditions are relatively safe. I'm not really going towards a destination. Because of that, I am able to remove these fatigues. I'm not going to roll on the events table for the night watch for this. We're not that far out of town. We're in an easy, safe area on the main road where many travelers go. So I'm going to say the camp is uninterrupted, especially after this storm. So he's able to sleep peacefully at night. And the next day, the next first watch of the next day, he is able to make it back to town. But because he was gone in more day, he brings the horse back. Is the stable master going to charge him an extra day because he was gone an extra day? I'm going to roll a fate chart on that. I'm going to roll a fate roll. But I'm going to enhance it with my perception. Let's make a perception check first. A presence check first. I am unsuccessful with that presence check. Look at that. I rolled a 19 on 18 presence. So there is no modifier. I'll say 4, 5, 6. He doesn't. 1, 2, 3. He's going to charge me another 2 gold. 4. Okay. He does not charge me another 2 gold for that. Got lucky, but I failed a presence check. I'm not going to roll a threat die for that. No thanks. Okay. So we're back to town. I think, I think that's where I'll end this particular video. We've already gotten 2 days are already down on our 2 of Wands, even though Alaric talked a little bit about the death of his brother. Well, the monks were already aware, so there wasn't really a good opportunity to really have this kind of discussion with those pilgrims on the road. So we're already 2 days into our quest goal. Hopefully we can get there by day 5. I don't know, maybe I should get a counter on here, but I think I can probably remember what we're on. Hopefully I won't forget. Anyway, I hope you all have a great week. I'm really liking the story so far. We're getting there. It's moving along at a good clip now that we've started really rolling. Have a great week, everyone. We'll talk to you later.